chair just went. Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on October 12th, 2022, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Bob Rawls and I serve as the chair. Hearings are broadcast live on Channel 18 and are also recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. Today's hearing is being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, after hearing from applicants, representatives, and interested parties, I will normally ask for comments and questions from commissioners. Whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you are speaking. If you're attending by phone and wish to speak, use *6 to unmute, and then address the chair. Use *6 again to mute. If you're online and you're not a commissioner, please keep your camera and microphone turned off unless you've been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. The commission will vote on each matter by roll call. So that we have a record of a quorum, I'll now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Bob Del Vecchio.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Karen Latin is not here, I believe. Mary Sullivan is here online.
I'm online.
Yes.
Present.
Elise Gordon is not here today. Cheryl Meservey.
Here.
And I am here, so we do have a quorum. It used to be that we had a hard deadline on the second Wednesday of each month due to a conflict with Airport Commission being televised at 4:30, but I am told that that is no longer the case. So we do not have a hard deadline. Unfortunately, depending how you look at it. We won't be having to rush through it. Nikki Smith, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through the agenda.
The first item up is a request for a field change, 20 Jericho Lane LLC, map 10B, parcel B2, SE 103525, increase the size of the pool, pergola on a patio, and relocate pool equipment and install a flagpole. Oh, Susan Ledoux's here for. I will say that we were a little confused on which, in your letter, you listed all three orders, one for the house, one for the pool, and one for the dock. So the dock hasn't even been approved, so we can't do a field change on an unapproved permit.
I apologize for that. I think what we thought was that we would put everything together. I think at that hearing on the dock, and I won't go too far into that because I know you haven't voted. I think you required a few revised items, so those were put on the plans. But I'll stay away from that with the field change request, if that's okay with the commission.
Yep, so I was kind of, just to start it off, I was thinking item number 4, the planting plan with the shrubs to mitigate for the tree removal, because I believe the tree removal was because they wanted to be able to see the dock. So I'm thinking maybe just revise the regarding to just get rid of the house and dock SE numbers and then get rid of number 4, and then we'll address that with the dock application. I feel like that's the most clear. If anyone else has any other ideas, but other than that, go ahead.
All right, thanks so much. Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies, representing the Lebovitz, the owners of 20 Jericho Lane. And as Nikki said, we've submitted a revised site plan from Clark Engineering and a revised swimming pool plan that Yarmouth Port Design Group had prepared. And those were the two plans of record, I believe. for house and pool that you approved. So with those, the following revisions were made to the plans, and one, within the larger, we're looking for a larger pool location and an addition of a pergola. And the pool's been enlarged from the approved 16 feet by 30 feet to 18 feet by 36 feet, shifted over on the approved patio, and an 8-foot by 26-foot pergola will be installed on the patio between the house and the pool. And the footprint of the approved patio will not change. There's no additional site coverage proposed. The configuration stays exactly the same. It's just the enlargement or addition of the pergola within that approved pool patio footprint. And the second item is the approved pool equipment has been relocated away from the patio and the edge of the 50-foot buffer line to midway between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer area. The pool equipment will be surrounded by already proposed or approved mitigation plants, so it's moved farther from the resource area, the new location. And then 3, the owners would like to install a flagpole in the 50 to 100-foot buffer area off of the patio. They'd like to be able to see the flagpole. And no existing trees will be removed for the flagpole. It will be installed with hand tools, no machinery to be used for the installation, and it will be surrounded by already approved mitigation plants. So that's, I'll leave it at that for this field change request. Thanks.
Thank you. So this is a phase 1 field change?
No, so it's not an amended order because I
Oh.
didn't see that any new conditions would be
Oh, I
required
see.
because it's not increasing in square footage, and yes, they're adding the flagpole, but that's pretty minimal. So there wasn't really much that I could have thought of to amend, to add any conditions. So
Okay.
that's why I chose field change.
Okay.
So when I send, assuming I send a letter of approval, if there's any special things anyone wants to note, I can add those in the letter for the file and to send to the representatives. But I didn't see that anything would
Okay.
require an amendment.
And we're not discussing the shrubs for trees element.
Correct. I think we should just
that out.
leave that out for when we discuss the dock, because that was their original purpose for removing them, is so that they could
Right.
have eyes on the dock.
So it does look like, I went back and looked at the previous site plan. It does look like it's the same footprint, just expanding the size of the pool. So anybody have any concerns, or questions, or comments about this? It looked nominal to me, but maybe I missed something.
Just was surprised that we approved the size of that patio.
Oh, I see. You have approval with grant. Well, we often have
Yeah,
that.
I looked at it and said, is that really fitting on the, and sure enough it is, so, whatever.
Yeah. Yes. So, I don't hear anything from anyone, in which case,
I'll move that we approve the field change for 20 Jericho Lane.
Williams, second.
roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
The next item is a notice of intent for 63 Tappan Drive, Red Right Return LLC, map 8B, parcel T2, SC10 3574, demo of dwelling and construction of a new dwelling, pool, and patio.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering. Phil Cheney is also here. Still has to go to ZBA. I think that's scheduled for the first meeting in November. Phil has submitted a revised landscape plan. So if you have any questions on that, there's been no, Phil's here, but there was no change to the Clark Engineering plan.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of confusion. I thought we were going to be dealing with OOC, but
Sorry, I skipped 150 Goose Pond.
That's, oh, that's,
That's the OOC.
So we'll go back to that one next.
okay.
Sorry about
Or I'm
that.
sorry, where are we?
Tappan.
We're in Tappan.
63 Tappan, I missed
Okay,
the.
I was just following along the agenda, I wasn't listening closely enough, so here we go. Sorry, hold on. Technical
Excuse me,
difficulty.
Phil Cheney, landscape designer here. If it helps, the only real change to the landscape plan was the addition of a tree.
Oh,
We learned the
tree
one was
and
being
lawn.
removed, so I added a pitch pine to the plan.
Okay,
And a note about the lawn, is that the, was there a,
Correct, yes, there was a
Requested,
note
yeah.
there about the lawn.
did we, I'm trying to figure why we asked you to come back. These are relatively minor.
Well, we didn't have a date for
Didn't
ZBA
have-
That was
yet,
the only reason?
and then some small changes to Phil's
Okay,
plan.
okay. Question?
Nope.
Yeah, this is, it doesn't engender much debate, I think. So, well, so with ZBA, do you anticipate any issues there?
I don't think so. The house is pretty much where the existing house is, with the exception of filling in where the deck was. And the pool meets all zoning requirements, so I don't foresee any issues with that.
Okay.
I just have one quick question, maybe for Phil, but I mentioned demarcating the mitigation planting in the rear. Would it help just to demarcate the area next to the house so no one goes through that? So people are aware that that's a official mitigation area?
I think the feeling was that there was, sufficient shrubbery to create enough of a boundary there. With just the narrow stretch, it really didn't make sense to be fencing that off.
Yeah,
Doing
not-
anything
maybe
significant.
not fencing, but just stone or something like that?
We'd do some stone markers.
Yeah. Okay. Other than that, I'm good with it.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Sounds like we're all good with it.
Make a motion that we approve the, oh, I'm sorry.
in the work session?
Continue, yeah, continue.
November 2nd for the
Yeah.
order.
November 2nd.
Okay.
Make a motion that we continue 63 Tappan Drive to the work session on November 2nd, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote. Cheryl,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Just a question, do you want a revised plan for the marking stones, or is that just gonna be in the order?
It'll be in the order.
Yeah, we'll put it in the order.
All right, so backtracking a line, there was a request for an order of conditions for 150 Goose Pond Road, James and Carolyn Eldridge, map 6G, parcel 14B, construction of a single-family dwelling. I didn't get the, with Columbus Day, I didn't get the stuff in time to get it included in the order and get everything out to the commission to review beforehand. So I'm requesting that it get continued to October 19th to the very beginning of our work session regarding regulations. And I talked to David about that right before the meeting, and I think he's okay with that.
I am okay with that.
All right,
Appreciate that, David.
thank you.
I'll move that we continue 150 Goose Pond Road to the work session on October 19th, 2022.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Where are you, Mary? What's your background?
Oh, actually, that's my work background.
Oh, okay, I got it.
That's one of our solar farms
I got it, all right.
out in Blackstone.
Did I?
Did you start with her? Okay. Sorry.
Okay, and I vote aye, and so, yes, we'll see you then, if I didn't say that already.
All right, the next one is a notice of intent for 1151 Old Queen Anne Road, Cleanfield Capital LLC, map 6H, parcel 1A, SE 103575, construction of deck and at-grade steps.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering, and Phil Cheney is also here, the landscape architect for the project. If you look at the revised plans, we took the deck off of there. The homeowner felt that if you can't have a deck and see the pond, there's no sense of building a deck. So that's been removed. Bill Riley, I believe, has filed with Zoning Board of Appeals for the at-grade steps. I don't know when that hearing is. So proceed however the commission would like to proceed.
All right. So the viewing platform is gone. We just have the pathway and steps. And I had no concerns about that. Glad to see the platform is gone. Anybody with anything else?
I had a question about that little pathway. You put a fence there? Is that the story? Right at the jog, right where the path comes down the bank and then takes a right turn if you're walking down to the water. I had mentioned that there was quite a bit of erosion and a pathway. And I was wondering if you could plant that area.
We intend to, because the path is now taking that last little turn towards the pond, we'll be putting a couple of steps in there, and it'll be vegetated on both sides of that.
Yep, and I've added some switchgrass to patch in the hole where it goes through now. Most of the bank is switchgrass now, so it's a good solution there.
I think I was talking about, let's see, right at that jog at the end of the pathway. If you're coming down the path and you look left, there's quite a bit of sand running along the bank. Is that the area you're going to plant as well, or?
No, we looked at basically patching the whole bank, but we feel that a lot of those sandy areas are used by turtles during the nesting season. In the other areas of the pond, in bare spots, you definitely see turtle activity. Actually, out on Old Queen Anne Road, there's a turtle crossing sign just a few hundred feet down the street from their driveway.
Yeah.
So we want to leave a portion of that bank exposed. There's really no signs of erosion other than from the foot traffic on the path, and the purpose of the project is to address that. But the natural areas where there's exposed sand, we want to leave alone.
Okay. And then I mentioned having some kind of a boat rack, for the dinghies that were located on the beach.
I'm sorry I missed that. We can certainly add that to the plan.
Are the dinghies thought to be the owner's dinghies?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so could we add that?
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody else? Are you done, Bob?
I'm done, thank you.
I can add that, and I'm not sure when ZBA is. I don't, now that actually the deck conformed to zoning, but I don't foresee ZBA having a problem with this project. So I can have a revised plan for your working meeting on November 2nd, if that's okay with the commission.
How many boats would you need to accommodate, do you think?
I don't think they need more than two.
Oh, okay.
So, and you could
Okay.
probably get up to 4 kayaks on one rack, 2 on each side if they're stacked up. But
Yeah.
I doubt they need something that big.
All right. So we would continue this to a work session, and we would have a revision showing the kayak rack beforehand.
Yes.
Okay. Which session are we talking about?
November 2nd.
Okay.
I'll move that we continue 1151 Old Queen Anne Road to November 2nd, 2022.
Is that the right, are you saying that's not the right date?
Oh, William second. The second, you said, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Roll call vote, Cheryl,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I just noticed, Susan Ledoux, your hand is up. I didn't know if that was from earlier, or if you had something.
No, I apologize.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
okay. I
why.
just wanted to make sure. All
But I will be up on the next item, I think.
all right, thanks. All right, so the next one is 42, the notice of intent for 42 Black Duck Landing, Thomas and Jennifer Smith, map 12B, parcel 1DB5. There is no SE number yet. Construction of an addition and deck onto the existing dwelling, invasive plant management, and native plant restoration.
Good afternoon, Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies again, here with John O'Reilly and Teresa Sprague, my technical team, and I'm just going to introduce the project, then turn it over to them, if that's okay with the commission. We've submitted a notice of intent application filing package, and then the site plan from J.M. O'Reilly and Associates, and then the land management and planting plans from Blue Flags. So the property description, 42 Black Duck Landing is located in the Stage Neck area of Chatham off Cedar Street. The southerly portion of the property abuts or includes the abandoned cranberry bog known as the Cedar Swamp, and this area is hydraulically connected to the Stage Harbor tidal estuary. The cranberry bog is considered a bordering vegetated wetland under the Wetlands Protection Act and a vegetated wetland under the Chatham Wetlands Regs. A 5-foot wide stream also runs through the southerly portion of the property. Based on this information, the following Wetlands Protection Act regulations apply to this property. Within 200-foot riverfront areas, the issuing authority may allow the alteration of up to 5,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area within the lot, whichever is greater, on a lot recorded on or before October 6, 1997. 42 Black Duck Landing was created by a 1981 subdivision plan. Almost all of the subject lots located within the riverfront area, so 10% of the 200-foot riverfront area is approximately 5,440 square feet. The coastal bank in this area is controlling, so no wetland delineation was done of the vegetated wetland. The flagging done by J.M. O'Reilly and Associates is as shown on the attached site plan. Orange and black stripe flagging along the edge of wetland, and the number of the flag is noted. And per the town of Chatham wetland bylaw, an adjacent upland resource area is associated with the vegetated wetland and defined as all land within 100 feet of the limits of the wetland. The first 50 feet from the wetlands defined as a no disturb zone. The property is located in the R40 zone and has been developed for residential use. A single family dwelling, driveway, and deck were constructed in 1983. Most of the dwelling, deck, and portion of the driveway are located between the 50 and 100-foot buffer lines and between the 100 and 200-foot setbacks from the riparian zone. Total existing coverage in the 50 to 100-foot areas, 1,695 square feet. which includes structure and hardscape, and the southeast corner of the house is located 48.9 feet from the top of the coastal bank. Otherwise, all existing development is located outside of the NDZ. Based on the edge of the clearing located by J.M. O'Reilly, the existing altered portion of the lot is about 6,500 square feet. We're proposing to remove the existing deck at the rear of the home and construct a sunroom / lower level addition, about 168 square foot addition footprint, new deck and patio area, expanding the driveway somewhat. Total proposed coverage in the 50 to 100 foot area will be 2,319 square feet. That would be structure and hardscape, a total increase of 623 square feet. All new construction shall be outside of the NDZ between the 50 and 100 foot lines. The proposed work will be within the existing cleared area of the lot and will not be increasing the amount of altered area. No new clearing is proposed with this project. The land management plan and planting plan, I'll leave that to Teresa, so I won't even read that part of my letter. And the other regulatory review, it has been before the ZBA already and was approved on September 22nd. And I'll turn it over to John and or Teresa to talk about performance standards and the land management plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like it's a jump ball for who speaks next.
John, would you like to speak?
You're muted, John.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is John on the
I think
call?
he's still trying to figure out how to mute. Maybe you should go while he's working on it.
Okay, perfect. So Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design here on behalf of the property owners, the Smiths at 42 Black Duck Landing. I think Susan gave an excellent introduction and overview of the site conditions. I'm just going to quickly discuss the site conditions from a vegetation standpoint. We've got a lot where we've got about 85% to 90% invasive vegetation located throughout the area shaded in green. The invasive vegetation is very thick all the way back into the actual BVW itself, where it becomes mainly native at that point. But the entire 50-foot buffer is made up of mainly invasive vegetation, including bittersweet, porcelain berry, shrub honeysuckle, border privet, Japanese holly, greenbrier, and then aggressive species, including greenbrier, grapevine, raspberry, and poison ivy, of course. Native vegetation that is located throughout the site includes red maple, arrowwood viburnum, Clethra alnifolia, highbush blueberry, winterberry, some ostrich ferns, wood ferns, sensitive ferns, and American holly. The proposed mitigation plan is to manage the invasive vegetation, protect the existing native vegetation, and restore a new native vegetation plant community throughout the area. It's approximately 9,119 square feet of total management area that we're proposing. The area will be replanted after the invasive species removal with, I believe it was 15 trees and, whoops, forgive me, hold on, let me grab my notes, 15 trees and 256 native shrubs. In addition to that, the ground cover layer, which currently does not exist, will be completely restored with native shade-tolerant grasses, sedges, and wildflowers. I think the plan is broken down very clearly. We have the darker green area showing a 90% invasive plant cover, a slightly lighter green with 70 to 80% invasive plant cover, and then a very light mint green showing the invasive species management area, about 20% invaded. The area that's shown in yellow on the western property line is fully invasive vegetation that will be removed for the construction of the patio and the new deck. Let me see. There is a large Norway maple located on the northern side of the property between the street, Black Duck Landing, and the house. That existing Norway maple There is a note to remove that Norway maple. However, the property owners have asked if they could possibly keep that Norway maple for now and reassess the removal of that tree a little further down the road. The tree is providing a lot of shade from its canopy. While it is invasive, it's a very large tree. It's well established. And so I recommended to the property owners that we present to the commission that we leave that tree for now, and then address it in the future if the property owners are concerned about it being a hazard. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed plan, details of the land management plan, et cetera.
All right, thank you, Teresa. Do we want to hear, we have something else from your team?
Hi, through the chair, John O'Reilly. Can you
John.
hear me now?
Yes.
I've been listening. For some reason, my audio is not working on my laptop. I really have nothing more to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Obviously, the work being proposed is within previously altered areas. We're respecting the 50-foot buffer zone, and I think Teresa and her team have come through with a wonderful restoration effort. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, yeah, let's, we'll just ask questions of any of you in no particular order, I think. I do want to clarify something with Teresa, and that is that there's no mitigation area per se, it's just a very large restoration area, or am I misconstruing?
So our goal here is the restoration is obviously being presented as part of the mitigation. You will note that on the western portion, there's an area of lawn that currently dips down into the 50-foot. We've marked a 50-foot buffer zone from the bordering vegetated wetland. The J.M. O'Reilly plan is showing the 50-foot buffer zone from that fragmented coastal bank. You can see that portions of that the AE 11 are considered coastal bank. I'm sure John can explain that more clearly than I can, but due to the topography of the site. But the center portion of that AE 11 is not considered a coastal bank. So we wanted to make sure that we were looking at all of the resource areas and resource area buffer zones. So we added on our plan the 50-foot buffer zone to the BBW. Our goal here is to make sure that the entire 50-foot buffer zone to the BVW is fully vegetated. So we are proposing to plant an area of lawn within that 50-foot buffer to the BVW. Now there is a portion of invasive vegetation that runs outside of that 50-foot buffer to the BVW. As you move eastwardly on the plan, it's showing in the dark green. We are proposing to remove the invasive vegetation from that area and bring that back to fescue clover lawn so that there's some recreation area behind. But again, with the goal of ensuring that 50-foot buffer to the BVW is entirely vegetated. And then, of course, as we move along the eastern property line, we're revegetating that area all the way up through the 100-foot buffer zone and riparian area.
Okay, right, we have two 50-foot, I guess I hadn't quite picked up on this, two 50-foot buffer lines. So behind, between the 50-foot buffer zone to the BVW and the wetland, there's a non-green area?
That's existing lawn. The area between the 50-foot buffer zone and then the 50-foot buffer zone BVW that we added, there is existing Cape Cod lawn in that area, and that area will be maintained. I believe it's hatched, and there is a key that shows fescue microclover mix. It's sort of a dot hatch in that area.
Well,
Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not sure that I am. If you look on your map, you have the line showing the 50-foot buffer zone to BVW.
Yes.
And there's a non-green area south of that.
Yes. That's existing lawn that we're proposing to plant.
Plant, okay, yeah, that's because I
Correct, yes. So it's existing lawn, and we're proposing to plant that to ensure that the entire 50-foot buffer to the BVW is naturally vegetated.
All right. So the reason it's not green is that it's not invaded in any way, except by...
Correct. It's
Okay.
existing. Yes, it's lawn. Correct.
Yeah, 15 trees you're adding, and you also don't want to remove a Norway. That's a lot of trees and being added here. You don't see that too often. I have some questions, but I'm just going to step back for a moment while I think about my notes.
I'll jump in at this
right.
point. Thank you, Bob. So Teresa, the narrative of the plan tends to have mixed invasive and aggressive vegetation. And I know that you do separate out some of the invasives and some of the aggressive, the greenbrier, the poison ivy, the raspberry, the goldenrod. But when I look at the back, I can't tell whether all of the aggressive natives are slated for removal, because in the treatment section in the back, it seems to indicate that treatment for those species is best done with glyphosate. So that says to me they're going to be taken out. So can you explain what natives, aggressive and otherwise, are going to be left once the invasives are removed?
Yes, so obviously the standard native vegetation, including the red maples, the summer sweet, the viburnum, the high bush blueberry, winterberry will all remain after the invasive species removal. Any of those plants that were damaged by invasive vines will be pruned for regeneratively pruned, or pruned to allow for regeneration of those native species. The aggressive species, the poison ivy, the greenbrier, the grape, and the goldenrods can all, they're all aggressive. They all will fill in very quickly. They will outcompete newly planted shrub and tree species. So our goal is not ever to eradicate those species, but to simply manage them so that the newly restored vegetation has time to get established and can compete with those really aggressive species. So again, the goal is not for eradication for those species. It's just to manage them, to prevent them from outcompeting the newly planted native vegetation.
Okay, so how is that accomplished?
So basically with the greenbrier and the poison ivy, we will treat that. There'll be a mix of mechanical and hand removal on this site. Species like poison ivy and greenbrier will be cut and treated. There's a couple of reasons for that, and one of them is so that we can safely get into this area and access it and remove the invasive vegetation. And I know most of you have crawled around in areas that are overcome by by greenbrier and poison ivy, and they're not pleasant to work in. So for safety reasons, as well as management of the preventing them from overcoming the newly planted native vegetation, we will manage the poison ivy and the greenbrier. The grape here is aggressive, but it's not overly aggressive. So the way we generally manage that is if we see it started to come back and overtop native vegetation, we cut it back. So we're going to be managing it. So I think it's important to note that. But again, the goal is not eradication. I suspect the goldenrod, which is allelopathic, it's an early successional species. It moves in and will take over areas that have been left unmanaged. And it is a native species, and it has a really important function in succession. But in this particular case, it is allelopathic. It can outcompete some of the native grasses and sedges and wildflowers that we're trying to get established in here for more diversity. So we would propose to manage that. A lot of that will be removed mechanically when we remove the invasive vegetation from the ground cover layer.
Some of it or all of it? I mean, if it's mechanical removal, you're not really able to pick and choose, are you?
Selectively managed. So where there's large stands of goldenrod, we will remove it.
Okay. But leaving some in where it's not already?
There's always some.
There's always,
and as a
that's
matter
true.
of fact, goldenrod is I mean, it's a challenging species to manage, particularly when we're trying to get things like meadows established. That's not the case here. The case here is really to get a good ground cover layer established where absolutely no ground cover currently exists.
Right.
So our goal is to make sure that we have those vertical layers reestablished: ground cover layer, shrub layer, canopy layer. And we will need to manage that goldenrod in order to get a diverse ground cover layer established.
So you would
Now,
do the same
goldenrod-
thing as with the grape, that when, if and when it comes back and begins to reestablish, you would cut it back
We'll-
and
we'll cut it
continuously
back.
remove? Mhm.
Exactly, we'll cut it back, and there's no way that we're going to entirely eradicate the goldenrod, nor would we want to, but we do need to keep it managed to allow other native species to reestablish in the ground cover layer.
Okay, I get that. It's hard, though, I think, from a practical perspective, when you're actually doing that work, too, when you're trying to not take everything. But I think you're right about goldenrod. No matter what, they'll be seeing it again in the future. It'll reappear.
Yeah, and this
As it
particular
does.
species, I mean, there are many species of goldenrods that play, really well with other native species. It's the rough stem goldenrod that's particularly challenging because it wants to create a monoculture of goldenrod. So we just have to prevent that from happening to allow other species to get established.
Got it. Last question, on the replacement trees. What's a tubling?
A tubling. So
Tubling. How-
basically what we're proposing to do is plant some trees back at different age classes so that we're getting some smaller sized trees that will be able to get established and kind of fill in gaps over time. So we're proposing to put back the oaks and the red maples at a 2 to 3 inch caliper size. And then we're putting back some smaller sized trees. So tubling size would be almost like a whip. If you know what that is, so.
Is that smaller than a
it's small
sapling? I
cal-
don't know. what it
It's like a sapling
Yeah,
size tree,
okay,
correct?
okay, it's a
Yes.
sapling. Okay, and given what the locations of where you're putting those little guys, they're not going to be threatened by, they'll be able to grow and expand in that location where they're going?
Exactly, and as the existing native canopy naturally declines and light gaps are allowed through, those will quickly take their place.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I assume you have questions, Bob.
Yeah, Teresa, I think this is a great project, to remove all these invasives and to return the area to a more of a native area. I just have one concern, and that is, these projects, we call for 3 growing seasons of management and care. What happens after the 3 growing seasons?
So in my experience, the invasive vegetation at that point is at a low enough, we're at 95, 98% control. We have projects on Black Duck Landing that we continue to monitor and manage that have a project similar to this, where we go in once a year, we monitor, we hand pull or treat any invasive vegetation. As you know, that there's a lot of invasive vegetation throughout this entire area in order to keep those invasive species at bay. And we've had some real long-term, just right around the corner from this project area. I think we're going on year 7 on that project. It's received its certificate of compliance. It's an excellent health. And it just requires very minimal monitoring and very minimal follow-up management. If we see, for instance, a porcelain berry coming back, we hand pull or treat it immediately. But it keeps the area fully vegetated with native vegetation.
Will you propose that type of comeback, after the 3 years to the
Yes, as a matter of
homeowners?
fact, yes, we have, and it's built into our land management plan for ongoing invasive species management on page 12, that after the 3rd management season, invasive species should be under control. At this juncture, invasive plants should be reduced to a low enough number that annual hand removal or selective herbicide strategy will suffice to keep them out of the naturalized area. And that, making sure that the property owners understand that invasive plants generally take a 3 to 5 years of active management to reach that level of control. Generally, 5 years would cover things like Japanese knotweed, or black swallowwort, which we are not finding on this particular site.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Sure, okay. Just a few questions. On the site plan, talks about a patio, but I can't quite tell where the patio is. It almost looks like it's next to the property line. Right? If, at least the word patio
It is.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
It is. So if you follow yourself down the gravel driveway to the end,
Right,
so you're parallel to the north side of the house, there is a small retaining wall. And then there's a series of landscape steps at the northern end of that retaining wall. If you can zoom into the site plan, you would be able to see it. There you go. I just clicked down a little bit. So you have some steps at the end of the retaining wall, and that dumps onto the patio. So the patio runs the length of the deck and incorporates the stairs, and then runs up just adjacent to the property line. And it's curved on that side and then straight up against the retaining wall.
okay. I just assumed that setbacks wouldn't allow that, but is that not true?
Patio, yeah, that is not true. Patios are not considered structure under the zoning.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Requirements. So it's the deck that we need to pay attention to, and that was blessed by the zoning board of appeals as Susan had mentioned.
Okay, yeah, I just learned something there. The lawn, this is for Teresa, I guess, the lawn that will be there when you're all done, is that kind of lawn will it be?
It's going to be a Cape Cod lawn, a fescue clover lawn. The property owners are, very well aware that, the watering will be temporary in nature only. And then once the plants are established, any irrigation that's proposed will be removed from the site. So it will be a Cape Cod lawn, a fescue microclover mix.
Okay. Yeah, we just have to ask the question. So on the two adjacent properties, are they similarly invaded?
I am not sure about the property. I am not sure. I do know that there are other properties as we get out back towards Cedar Street that are very heavily invaded, and our experience with the Siebert's property and that ditch that wraps around this entire area from the whole cranberry bog, that has, again, I think because of the history of disturbance, is fairly heavily invaded throughout that area.
Okay, so, the obvious follow-up question, which you would expect from me, is that what is the prognosis for your restoration in light of the fact that it's surrounded by invasives on both properties?
Mm-hmm. Well, based on our experience at 49 Black Duck Landing, which is at the end of the cul-de-sac, and that project was done in 2015, and that project is still in excellent, the restoration area is in excellent health. Like I said, in answer to Mr. Delvecchio's question, we do continue with some very minor monitoring and follow-up management as necessary to keep the invasive vegetation out of that area. But it's a really successful project with long-term success.
Yeah, and what would have been the level of success without the long-term care?
I suppose that over time, if no care were taken, some of the invasive vegetation would reinfest the area. It's, not to the levels that this has been infested. Once we get the native vegetation established, it does a good job holding its own. But the reason these invasive plants are called invasive is because they will outcompete existing native vegetation. And that's why they're on the invasive species plant list.
Okay, so this clause that you have in your contract, in this particular case, is that something that's fairly standard for you now? Do you add,
It,
are you
it
able to?
is that, yes, that ongoing management after the 3 years, that has always been built into our land management plans and continues to be.
It's
So that the,
it's basically 3 to 5 years then? I mean, after,
we make sure, again, we make sure that the property owners know that 3 to 5 years of management is what it's going to take to get to that level of control, that only minor monitoring and hand pulling or minor selective treatment will be required to keep the invasive vegetation out of the established area.
and after 5 years, your experience is that it's less necessary if everything goes according to plan?
Absolutely less necessary, yes.
Okay.
And that it's again, it's the idea of the rapid response portion of our invasive species management methodology that when we get to a level where we've got 95, 98% control, we can very quickly remove any of the invasive vegetation that may try to work its way back in, mainly because it's coming in from bird droppings, et cetera, from neighboring areas.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just, trying to figure out how, in the general case, how can we protect these mitigation areas when they're next to invaded areas? We've talked about mow strips, talked about
Yes.
ongoing care, but I think our thinking is continuing to evolve on how can we sort of bake this into all applications, all orders and conditions. Anyway, I'm glad that you have that in there.
Yes, thank you. It's a challenge. In my experience, that most of the homeowners, and I can't think of one that has said, "Oh no, we just spent all of this money doing this restoration. We're just going to stop now and let it go back to invasive vegetation." They're invested in maintaining this. And not only because it's healthy, it improves the health of the wetland resource areas, but because in the end, it looks so much better than what's currently existing out on the site. And as long as there's something that the property owners are invested in, they're willing to maintain it.
Right.
No, I was just, I'm glad to hear that, Teresa, and we are also, as Bob said, evolving, and we've been working with ongoing conditions in our orders where restoration or mitigation projects are potentially threatened by adjacent invasives. And as I look at the density of your plan here, I just think you will have to be mindful of providing access so that the monitoring of this area for any potential threats from invasives getting back in need to be established so that they can get in there and take a look and do the monitoring, because I'm glad your contract is for 5 years, but it will be an ongoing condition in the order that the area be protected against re-invasion. So, good.
Anybody else? Cheryl?
I just want to say that that was one of the most informative presentations that I took all kinds of notes. Thank you very much, that I learned quite a bit. Thanks.
Very good. Yeah, I echo Bob's comments. This is it's a nice, from a mitigation perspective, from a native plant perspective, this is a huge win for this property, so.
And from the perspective of protecting the cedar swamp, which is a jewel of a wetland in this town. So to see it so surrounded by encroaching invasives is really distressing. So little by little, restoring it's great.
There's one question I forgot to ask. Is the patio pervious? I'm not sure if it was mentioned or not.
No, we did not mention it, but it is, I believe it's a dry lay patio.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Well, can't find any fault no matter how hard I try. All right. So.
Well, let's stop talking.
Anybody? Yeah, I guess we're ready.
I'll move that we continue 42 Black Duck Landing to the work session on November 2nd, 2022 for an order of conditions.
So we are getting a little full on November 2nd. Do you have any problem with December or?
I think if you're asking us the question, I think the property owners would like us to be able to get started. Now, as far as Teresa's work, Teresa can answer that. I just know that the property owners will want us to apply for a building permit and get started probably sometime in December. So it may work out fine if you have to continue it to that meeting.
From a management perspective, that will work out for us as well.
I'm trying to think. We could do November 9th, maybe? I mean, I don't know. They're all busy right now, so I
They're all
don't
full.
really.
Is that a work session?
No,
No, it's a hearing.
that would be December 7th.
First,
7th.
Oh.
The 1st is a Thursday.
oh dear.
So, yeah, I try to, I like keeping, for some reason, I just want to keep work sessions and hearings separate from each other, but we're continually.
I just
that
want to
wall
get
is-
it on whatever's the next meeting.
That's
and
true.
just
The
get it over with.
distinction seems to be gradually breaking down, unfortunately, but anyway. It's a busy time of year, so, yeah, I guess that's fine for me.
I'll revise that motion. I move that we continue 42 Black Duck Landing to the hearing on November 7th, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Wait, November 9th or December 7th?
The hearing on the 9th.
9th, November
Okay.
9th, yeah. Is that what you said, Bob? I thought that's what you said.
Yeah, I think I said November 7th.
Oh, okay.
So I'll revise it again. That we continue 42 Black Duck Landing to the hearing on November 9th, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, thank you all. We will see you then.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The next notice of intent is for 128 Woodcarver Knoll Nominee Trust, map 11D, parcel F9 and F9B, SE 103578, coastal bank stabilization, construction of building additions, and reconstruction of patios.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering. I believe Jennifer Crawford is on the line also, and Ms. Gruber is one of the principals of the trust, is here in the audience also. It was continued for some revisions on our plan, as I think some changes to the mitigation plan. Also, the commission had questions regarding other aspects of the project. In consulting with the applicant, one of the suggestions by the commission was to look at those two gardens that are on the water side of the house, and they're happy to remove the easterly one. It's a flower garden that's not used hardly ever anymore. So that's one of the changes to the plan. So that'll be removed, and in its place will be compatible materials that's already proposed around it. The other question the commission had was regarding there was a pipe that was sticking out of the bank by the boathouse. Ms. Gruber has been at the property for a number of years, and they tried on their property to figure out where that pipe was coming from, and they poured water down all their drainage from the downspouts, and it's not coming from the dwelling. We presume it is an old perimeter drain for the boathouse. The boathouse predates all the houses on that subdivision. It was part of a larger estate back in the 70s, and the area got redeveloped. So we don't know where the pipe goes, and I'd be reluctant to cut and cap it at this point, because if it is acting as a foundation drain for the boathouse, it is serving a purpose, but it's certainly not stormwater. It is, I think it's draining either groundwater or when we get a very high tide and the area gets flooded and helps drain from around the boathouse. On the Clark Engineering plan, along with that garden that's being removed, we did remove the note regarding a retaining wall or stairs on the westerly patio, so it matches Andrew's plan, in that there was no structure on that side other than the patio. That's it for the changes that was shown on the site plan. Jennifer's here, if you'd like to hear from her.
Yeah, sure.
We did have a couple of changes to our plan, actually, in addition to that. Is that something that you can bring up, Nikki, or can I share my screen?
Either way, whatever's easiest.
Go for it. If you have it handy, go for it. It's pretty minor, but at the first hearing, there was a question or a suggestion, rather, with the association path that comes down the easement that is adjacent to the property line, that we switched the planting with the path location so that the mown path is actually against the property line, to help as a mow strip for the invasive species that are on the neighboring property, and that made absolute 100% perfect sense. So we went ahead and made that revision to our plan. And then, as David had said, that small square garden down in the corner has been removed from our plan and then replaced with mitigation plantings in kind. So those were added to our plant specification table. And those were the two items that came out of that first hearing, and I think we've responded accordingly. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that as far as my notes are concerned, those are the things that we talked about and asked for, and unless someone else can remember something else, you can, okay.
There was a question about, because the project goes over the property line onto the adjacent property, and getting the owners to join in the application somehow, or not object, or
Well, since we
acquiesce?
have a quarter interest in that property, we have a right to file. And Ms. Gruber does have casual emails from the other three owners that have an interest in that property saying good luck, and they give their full support to the project. I can certainly forward those to Nikki so they're part of the record.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
So you're saying the owner has a quarter interest in the boathouse, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the four houses down at the cul-de-sac each have a quarter interest in
Okay.
the boathouse.
Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns? Doesn't look like it. So, yes, thank you. I think
It is going to zoning board, I believe, in December for the two small additions. We would not want to wait for an order of conditions to January. The applicants would really like to get Crawford out there as sooner than later to get started on all their work. They might not start the construction of the additions to the building till after next summer.
Right.
So,
So is December 7th okay?
In terms of us for Crawford, the sooner the better, but I do definitely understand that your schedules are very full. But for us, in our work, the sooner the better.
just to let you know, I do not have a filing plan for your one meeting in November, new hearing. So, if that helps at all.
Oh, I thought you were going to offer to trade some.
About the 6 I got yesterday.
Oh,
Oh, my.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it's up
It is what it is.
to you. We can continue with the work sessions, or we can just start throwing them on our next
We have
available
two
meeting.
hearing dates in November, the 9th and the 17th. Is that right?
The 9th and so we should have the 10th and the 9th.
I think you just have the one,
Yeah, all I have is we have,
the working meeting, and then you have one
Ah, the
meeting.
16th is not a,
yeah, maybe we need to add one.
maybe we could add a work session there. Chew through these orders.
May have to.
So let's continue it to the 2nd, November 2nd for now, and then
Maybe
we can
shift some.
convene on whether we're gonna add, a random work session.
Right. Once the total damage is apparent, we can decide whether to open up a new session.
And then I can contact the various representatives and see if they're okay with moving to that
Yeah.
special meeting.
That
or
would be
whatever.
greatly appreciated.
All right, so we'll do 11-2 for now.
I think we get time and a half for that, don't we? By having
Yes.
it, yeah.
Time and a half times 0 is still 0.
Still 0.
You'll have all that leftover Halloween candy to keep you going.
I'll make a motion that we continue 128 Wood Carver Knoll to November 2nd, 2022.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote. Cheryl,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next notice of intent is 40 Gamies Lane, the Glenview Trust Company, trustee of the Irrevocable Grandchildren's Trust, map 15B, parcel 74A, SE 103567, proposed house addition and associated site improvements.
Good afternoon. For the record, Sean Riley, Coastal Engineering, representing the applicant. We submitted a revised plan that shows the rain garden detail. The last time we met, we discussed taking out this paved parking turnoff area adjacent to the driveway, and it was suggested that we look into putting a rain garden. We've spoken with the applicant. He's amenable to having us design and install this rain garden that would collect the runoff coming down the driveway. The rain garden would have an elevated catch basin. We take the existing catch basin that's there, essentially just elevate the grate a half a foot above the ground level. So the grate would be set up at 13.5, and then we create this depression adjacent to the driveway that would be at elevation 13, and then elevation 14 around that. We've provided you with Jen Crawford from Crawford Land Management. Came up with a planting plan for this area with sweet gale, steeplebush, and a number of grasses and forbs within that area that are all great for taking up any of the pollutants that the stormwater may contain. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Yeah, we asked you for a rain garden, and you gave us a rain garden, so that's good. Anybody have any thoughts, concerns, or questions at this point?
I got a couple of things. Thank you, Sean and Jen, for providing that rain garden. That's wonderful. Hopefully it'll work, and it hasn't rained, well, it's been raining lately, but yeah, hopefully it works. The other catch basin closer to the house, was that removed?
Yeah, there was one down at the bottom of the driveway. That was removed because we converted all this area was pavement under the original application.
Right.
The planning board asked that we convert that to pervious material. We are maintaining this catch basin that's in the driveway, but we didn't feel the need to add this additional catch basin as this is all now pervious, and we're capturing a majority of the impervious driveway within that rain garden area.
Okay, great. No, I don't have anything further. There isn't any fence running around the entire property or part of the property, is there? Aside from the
not at all.
gate?
There's a stockade fence that runs along the the west property line, but it terminates outside of the 50.
Mm-hmm,
And that's actually the neighbor's fence.
okay. I
Yeah.
see it now, yeah. Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Nothing else? All right, yeah, well, then comes the difficult question.
Another order.
I think that Nikki said that we could put the order of conditions on the next meeting, so we wouldn't have to wait until the November work session.
Did you say that, Nikki?
Maybe.
We had discussed that at the last meeting because we really wanted to get on an earlier meeting because we had come before you probably 4 weeks ago and we couldn't get on an earlier meeting, and Nikki was amenable to getting that order out prior to or meeting again at your next meeting rather than waiting until the 1st as they're looking to get going on this.
Seems to be a common refrain.
So again, we could do, I think we've only continued one to the 19th during our regulations hearing. I don't know how long, I mean, it's impossible to predict how long that regulation meeting
Yes.
might go. So we could do the 19th or we could do the 26th, but I mean, they're all busy. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
It's like, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, so.
I mean, the awkward part about continuing these to the regulations discussions, there'll be plenty of people sitting around waiting for that to be over with or waiting for that to begin. And meanwhile, we're going on and on about regulations. It's just,
We don't mind if it's okay with you. We don't mind waiting at the end of the 19th. I just keep you off to the side of my screen and continue working over on the right while you guys are having your discussions. So
yeah. Yeah, we can't tell, yeah. It could be 4 hours, it could be an hour. We have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't really have an opinion either way where it gets continued to, because
It's all bad.
it's all got to be done, so.
Right, I'm in favor of doing them sooner and getting them out of the way since the 2nd is bad.
Yeah,
It does allow us, our prep work for the discussion, for the regulations discussion is not that much, so it gives us something to do.
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess the 19th.
All right, so we'll do the 19th. You'll see the agenda posted as usual, so you'll see if you're on first or last.
great.
And it'd be nice to have the other, we have one other there, one other OC.
Yeah, just one other one.
So to have them,
Yeah, have them
Agree
together.
on whether
So
they
I'm
go
thinking first and just get them
first.
done.
let everybody who's there for regulations just watch how the sausage is made, yeah. All right.
Be educational for them.
Oh, sure.
So I guess we'd request a continuance to the 19th for the order of conditions.
All right, thank you.
I'll move that we continue 40 Gamies Lane. I'll move that we continue 40 Gamies Lane to October 19th, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
All right, the next ones are 75 Tulipy Run, 59 Tulipy Run, and 27 Tulipy Run. Proposed rock revetments, reconstruction, and elevation extension, and a return extension on 27. They have requested a continuance to October 26th of 2022.
Do you have any idea why?
I cannot for the life of me remember.
Well, they have to redesign perhaps.
I don't think they actually said in the letter. I'm trying to pull it up.
They didn't, see the article in the paper today?
Oh, I think it was probably because Greg Berman
That's why he's
responded.
not, we wanted him, everybody wanted him
Yeah, and he had, I think he had responded to the Janet and both Bobs, I believe, he responded to those comments. And so Catherine probably just wanted to see those first. And there's a revised,
You responded?
No.
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 Okay. All right.
but yes, he should be available for the 26th.
Okay.
I haven't gotten 100% confirmation, but
That'll be great.
Make a motion that we continue 75 Chillipi Run, 59 Chillipi Run, and 27 Chillipi Run to October 26th, 2022.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
all right, and the next up, we have 470 Shore Road, James Eisenstein, map 16F, parcel 15A, A8, SE 103554. Proposed rock revetment reconstruction, vertical and lateral extension, fiber rolls, and site improvements. They also requested a continuance to 10/26 for more time to revise plans.
Okay.
Make a motion that we continue 470 Shore Road to October 26th, 2022.
Williams, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
This went surprisingly quick.
Surprisingly quick.
Now we just have the minutes for August 17th, 2022.
Yeah, those, I didn't really get, they came along fairly
I'm reading it now.
recently, but they're not, or scanned, why, there's not, usually, there wasn't, it was not in Word format, so I couldn't mark them up.
I converted them to Word,
Oh, you did?
So
but it's 40 pages.
Crystal, instead of recreating the wheel, she kind of just put Janet's notes on the
Oh, I see.
draft document, so that's why they're so long.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, this all seems very familiar.
Yeah, so she basically, did the discussion part, but then she just put the entire document kind of in the minutes. So if people wanted to get more details on it, they can look at it that way, instead of being super detailed and having to listen to every comment.
Oh, she did. She put the entire thing in. Which actually did come up in Word.
All right, well,
Down that far.
yeah, I'm not, I'm just sort of reading through, so I'm not, completely prepared to comment on it.
It's not a problem to hold off on them for the next hearing if you want to review how she did it.
How the rest of you feel? Bobby, did you get a chance to?
It's actually be useful for us to read through these more carefully before next week, because this is what I was trying to respond to in the round 2, or V2 as I'm calling it, this version. So it would be great if everybody was familiar with what people said to make sure that we've got some kind of response, or we've changed something or done something. And if not, we need to be able to say why not.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
We can hold off.
Yeah, if you could just, if you do have comments, if you could try and send them beforehand and I can throw them in, and that way we don't have to discuss it
That's true.
in length at the
Yeah,
19th.
that would save time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it my all, make it a homework assignment.
All right, so we'll hold off on the minutes till 10:19. I don't think we need to do a vote for that.
Okay.
All right, and I don't know if while the majority of you are here, I can pull up the schedule and we can see if we want to decide on a meeting, an extra meeting date.
Yeah.
While she's doing that, I'm not sure everybody heard, so there's a new folder in the regulation update folder in the Dropbox that's in the round one revisions, there's a folder, round one V2. So that folder has the track changes, track the changes that were made from the first version. And then it has a subfolder for clean version 2, which if they're okay, I will convert to PDFs and Nikki and Crystal can then upload them to my town gov before the hearing.
Okay, can you march down the path where,
Yep. So there's a folder called Round 1 Regulation Update. Let me go back. We can march everybody down the path because this is part of the other part of the homework. Regulation Update and Revision Project 2022. You see that one?
well, I'm talking just march from the top of the tree. So I don't know which path to go down.
So in that folder, there's Round 1 Revisions and New Sections. And that has subfolders, comments, edit notes, introductory remarks, PDF versions. Those are all part of what we did back in the summer. And then there's a new folder called Round 1 V2.
Okay,
And that's where the markups,
yeah.
the clean Word versions, and to be done clean PDFs. The one thing I don't have in here is a red line version showing the changes from the existing regulations for the two sections, auras and variances that do have existing. I'll run that and see what it looks like if it's,
It'll look like red,
right, it's gonna look like,
92% red.
like Word will make it look, but at least it will show the changes.
We did talk once about
Somebody,
you trying to sort of hide,
type of person.
basically it's sort of a list of the major
Yes,
changes.
when I run that,
Maybe you
when
can-
the outcome is as I
Yeah.
expect it to be, hard to follow, I will do a little quick outline and say, here's the major part of the changes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think without having that, it's really hard to ask the public to truly weigh in on it because it's a lot of language, but the best we can do, the best you can do.
Yep, all right.
Is everybody going to be there?
October 19th?
Yeah.
I should be. I don't have my phone with me right here, but I don't see why not.
Be there? Yeah, be there or be square, yep. All right. So Nikki's still working on whether or not we
Yeah,
have
I
to
cannot
add a
find,
session.
I don't know why I can't find our schedule online. So I know we're meeting the 2nd, and normally we would do the 9th and the 23rd. We're not doing the 23rd because it's the night before Thanksgiving,
Right. So the other Wednesday in between is the 16th.
16th.
November 16th?
So we could do November 16th or we,
It seems like the only logical spot to
Yeah,
put
we
it.
don't want to kick it down the road too far.
yeah. After that, it's November 30th, and by then we'll have all sorts of new things popping up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to get their projects kicked off before the winter gets here, so it's just,
And then it's, I mean, since it's, I don't believe scheduled yet, which isn't a problem, we can decide if we want to do earlier, later than 1 o'clock. or just keep the normal one?
Oh, I think we should stay with one.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, that's too hard.
Yeah.
It's confusing, yep, okay.
Half
So
of us
we'll
would
do the
forget.
16th at 1, November 16th at 1 PM. And I will double check that we have a room available
Hmm.
and all that stuff.
And then see whether or not,
And then just,
Things
I'll
can be
do a
shifted.
100, I'll, send out my normal Teams meeting once I get confirmation that that's fine for Channel 18 and
oh, that's
our room
also,
and all that
yeah,
stuff,
and-
so.
And then whether or not you truly can shift things over to it or not, or
Mm-hmm.
everyone's objecting to being shifted or whatever, yeah. All right, seems like a necessary evil. Anything else from anybody? I don't. There's plenty of new business. So,
Motion to adjourn.
Williams, second.
roll call vote, Cheryl.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
I enthusiastically vote aye. All right.